Good afternoon and welcome to Follow Everton. This is a special episode, one of two that's going to take place over this lunchtime today on Friday, 9th of May. And joining me for this, I don't know whether you're on both, but joining me certainly for this first one, as you can see, live from Australia is the man, the myth, the legend, Aussie Chris, in his lovely Everton green trackie. How are you doing, Chris?
Doing good. It's 8:20 in rural Australia. Gets a bit nippy at this time of year, which is, well, opposite from you guys.
Oh, it's nice and warm here, Chris. Nice and warm. And you're here in the Follow Everton studios in the loft. It can get particularly hot, similar to the desert in the outback. You certainly do need a few windows open up in the loft. And what I want to talk about today, Chris, is Adoulaye Doucoure on the first of these two streams. And he's a player who's been at Everton since 2020, so 5 years. I recently signed a one-year extension, which is expiring now at the end of this season. And he's on 120,000 British pounds a week. Yes, he's taxed 40% or 45%, I think, of his earnings over 50K per year. So he does lose a big chunk of it. But that is enough money to fund the most extravagant lifestyles. And the news today is that Doucoure, a player who has 3 Premier League goals this season and 1 assist from playing in the number 10 position for over 30 games, wants a pay increase. Chris, your reaction, please.
Eye roll. We can appreciate his services, but no, that's not any successful club cannot accept that. Plain and simple. He deserves the right to demand what he wants, similar to Calvert-Lewin, but we have the right as a club and as a fan base to say no, and I think that's where we have to go.
So basically, I'll talk you through a little bit what he said, but he said he wanted to go on Ben Foster's podcast because he had heard a lot of Everton fans on X, where he is a very prominent figure. He's on his phone, he uses it, talking about his salary. And he said that he thought it was inappropriate that Everton fans were commenting on Doucoure's salary, a player who he thinks is, in his own eyes, is an important player for Everton, which is without a doubt, he has been important in terms of he's played a lot of games. But he seems to take aim at the fact that we have criticised his salary and want him to take a reduction, where other players at Everton, maybe historically Andre Gomez and Michael Keane and all this sort of players who are on major money, have barely played. He's not happy with Everton fans in that regard. Just your thoughts on that. Does it really... we're entitled to have our opinion on salary, aren't we? To protect the club after what we've been through?
Absolutely. I think part of the problem that we've had for a while now is we put a lot of money into players that haven't performed to the salary expectations that we have and other clubs would have in the Premier League. Basically for the highest salary player, other than maybe Jordan Pickford, but they're pretty similar. Jordan Pickford is out and out probably the most reliable player we have. James Tarkowski is on high wages too. But the tricky part with Adoulaye Doucoure, as we know, statistically, when he's in the squad, overall, our performances have been higher. Does he contribute to goals? No. We get really frustrated with him playing, but there is something weird where he's part of the winning nucleus when he's on the pitch. But and it's hard to quantify, but I feel like someone can have the presence of chasing things down, be a large body, and make an impact that scores more goals for cheaper, right?
Yes, I agree. I certainly would agree with what you said about also he contributes to that sort of competitive nature of Everton, and he has a determination to win and be successful. But what he lacks, unfortunately, Chris, is any sort of football. I mean, I don't think he's the most intelligent person, I'll be honest. I don't want to make it too personal, but I don't think the guy is particularly bright, because if he was, he wouldn't be going on a podcast slagging off Everton fans who've given him nothing but support generally. Yes, we've criticised his limitations in terms of him as a footballer. I think when he's played in central midfield, particularly earlier in the season, I thought we were just all over the place. We were rubbish. And that was evident. The first 9 games, we won 2 matches against Crystal Palace at home and Ipswich away. But we were just rubbish with him in central midfield. And then he ended up shifting back, and he's had a run of 15 games in attacking midfield where he scored 3 goals, not assisted. They're not good stats. And you're right. I think there are there are players out there who have physical presence, who would chip in with more, just more about their game, more in the build-up, more in the final third, better finishing, more end product, and to come out and say he wants an increase. Are you joking me? Apart from the
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest match, you couldn't trap a bag of cement, and you've sucked the life out of a lot of the fans in half the games, giving the ball away cheaply. And I know he's not really strictly a number 10, but I don't like him in this in central midfield anymore, Chris. I just don't think he's. I just don't think it's there for me. I don't know. Am I missing something?
I don't think you are. But what's weird though, if he said like, okay, when Adoulaye Doucoure is truly on form, you say, okay, he may not be able to slow the game down and do the calm possession, take a
Mm,
second, do that touch. But when he's instinctively on form, he does things that the top players can't replicate. You're thinking build, size, and ability to do like basically Man City wage
mm,
things. There aren't many that can replicate. The problem is you can't capture lightning every week with Adoulaye Doucoure, and when you do, we win or we get it resolved. But if we don't, we're in trouble. So then you say, how do we get 80% of Adoulaye Doucoure? He may not be. Basically, I'm thinking like the Yaya Toure back in the day of Man City, where he's just this amazing presence by size, scale,
yeah,
can win the ball back. He's lanky, a bit like Amadou Onana, where he can do these crazy slide tackles, and it's just above and beyond everybody else. But
yeah.
if you don't do it consistently, what's the point? And I think that's what we're trying to get to: is how do we replicate Everton in the next 5 years?
Mm.
Do you rely on random moments of brilliance and skill? I'd say no. You want someone a little bit more proven, or he's proven himself to successfully score on the odd occasion, but someone more reliable, match in, match out. Maybe it's not a 9 out of 10 one week and a 4, 4, 4, 4, 9 out of 10. I would take some sevens.
I agree with what you said, and don't get me started on Amadou Onana slide tackles. They were a thing of beauty. But you're right, we've got to stop relying on moments of brilliance and actually have some consistency. There have been times with Doucoure, Chris, where I have felt I'm looking at an absolute monster. I'm looking at a beast in midfield who wins the battles, wins the duels, makes really good runs. Another time, and the Brighton goal, the Bournemouth goal, massive goals. We thank him so much for them. Incredible, big achievements. But these are moments, and I don't think we can afford now because I just don't see that consistency. I feel like this season he's had a few moments, but hasn't really been high level. And ultimately, Chris, he's part of a front four, which includes Jack Harrison, Doucoure, Calvert-Lewin in the main, that haven't
Mhm,
scored goals.
mhm.
And so where is the justification for giving him another year? I mean, I'll go on to add on a little bit more, but first I'll just say 125 of you watching, thank you so much for tuning in on this Friday afternoon. We appreciate it. And straight after this stream, we'll be live with a separate stream talking about Everton's transfer news, which is that Richarlison may be signing for Everton. So we'll come back. That's a separate stream. The reason I'm breaking it into two streams is just to help us with the YouTube algorithm. And if you do want to support the channel, please hit the subscribe button now on YouTube. If you're on X, give us a follow or go over to YouTube and search for Follow Everton and hit the subscribe button for us, turn notifications on and all that jazz. Okay. So Doucoure, he said, I watched the interview, slightly flabbergasted. He said, in effect, he's giving Everton 3 weeks to offer him a new deal, or he'll have to start looking at other proposals on the table. Is anyone else offering him 120 grand a week, Chris? And the reason I ask this is to sign him on a free transfer. You mean you think his market value is probably about 5 million?
Mhm.
You know, someone may be willing to give him that salary who doesn't have to pay the fee, but then he's going
The
to want to.
Saudi Pro League could do it. That's about
Yeah.
all I can think.
Would he go there? I mean, he went on to say that Everton, he's got 3 or 4 years at this level. I'll actually quote what he said. Everton are massive for me, but I think I might need to accept this chapter in my career is finished. And at the end of the day, I'll be happy if I leave the club. It's an interesting position to be in. I've never been a free agent before. I've always wanted security in my life. But to be honest, I'm amazed to hear Everton fans on X talking about my salary. I deserve to have my salary, which is £120,000 a week plus bonuses, apparently. and I won't reduce it to stay at the club. I've scored important goals. I should have an increase. I have 3 or 4 years left at this level in the Premier League. Look at the likes of Mo Salah and Van Dijk getting big salaries. I mean, he lost all credibility this start. You mentioned talking about world-class players who are consistent every single week.
Mhm.
Come on, mate.
Well, you know what? If he's scoring the amount that Mo Salah is in a similar position on the field, we wouldn't be
Yeah.
having this conversation. And yes, he can score the blinder, and we can credit him for that. But unless he consistently replicates, we need to pay him on his performances. When he does well, he deserves more than what he's actually asking for. And when he doesn't, then no. And we also, as fans, have the right to say what we want. But look, these players, take Trent Alexander-Arnold for an example. If he wants the salary increase, wants to leave the Liverpool area and go to somewhere else, he has every right to. But to complain that we as fans are unreasonable is the silly part. And you know, we you like him when he scores, we don't when he doesn't. But the problem is he doesn't have a good game where he doesn't score. Iliman Ndiaye, yeah, he can have a slightly poor game, but his floor is a 6 out of 10. It isn't anonymous in the number 10 when you need goals.
Absolutely. And I think, as people are saying in the comments, £120,000 a week, £140,000 a week, which is what he's asked for, is absolutely ludicrous for a player who's got 3 goals, 1 assist in 2,500 minutes in the Prem this season. I just think you have to be. We've set a precedence by giving these stupid salaries out in the first place. He's a 60 grand a week player. You know, that let's be honest. In his current thing, he's a £60,000 a week squad player. Would I have him next season on 60k a week? Probably would, with the fact that I'm actually replacing him as a first team player and he's used for certain matches, i.e., I want us to change the way we play. I don't want us to be doing the whole what we've been doing anyway, to be fair, but we need a squad. I think him and Garner's the one who deserves the salary because he's putting in consistent 8 out of 10s every week, more or less. But Doucoure for me is I just think he's lost a bit of credibility, really.
Yeah, and I think there's a disconnect between his, or clearly, where he sees himself and where the Everton fans see him. We can appreciate him for his services. We could also say that for Dele Alli for his one excellent half against Crystal Palace a couple of years ago. That doesn't mean we have to hold on indefinitely when his consistency of excellent moments is going away. It also kind of ties. Well, I'm blanking on the moment here, but we talked about the transition to a new a new team next year. And what we talked about was, well, what do we want to be? Do we just want to be a counter-attacking team? Because Adoulaye Doucoure, yeah, you roll the magic 8 ball and what he's going to do, but he is outstanding at being able to just awkwardly nick the ball off someone and start the play
Yeah.
going forward. But if everyone knows that's all he can do, that's what he can do, then you need a poor opponent that can't anticipate that play. So, all right, do you have a plan B? No, and that's part of the Everton challenge. He doesn't have a plan B in his game when it doesn't work out. So a lot of his plays are on the run, opening up, and sort of like the goal against Forest was very much the same way. Opens up, it's part of a counter-attacking opportunity. That's great, but if you want to get into the top positions, you can't just win on counter-attacking football. Yeah, Nottingham Forest have pulled that off largely this year, but that's just Chris Wood outperforming anyone's expectations on him. That's a freak situation statistically. Okay, so are we going to do that and reliably stay in the top 8, top 10, compete for Europe? I don't see that. So do we rely on Doucoure being that person, or do we maybe we go to what Mark Foster's saying? Dukes is required for certain games like City or Arsenal. In other words, he's a squad player. Don't pay 100k. And that, like, when you think of those that do really well against Man City, you think of the Wolves counter attack, and Ryan's looking after Poppy in the background here, so I'll keep talking. But there are certain teams that either love to play a high line, like Tottenham Hotspur, or you have teams that are just a little bit more roll the dice, let's say, because Doucoure scored one of the games he was involved in when we weren't. Who did we beat again? where Doucoure scored in like the 13th second or something ridiculous. Was it
Yeah,
against Leicester?
Leicester, I think it was.
Yes, so that was from them. But again, they played a high line. So if they play a high line, or they don't have good rest defense, and we counterattack effectively, Doucoure is good. But he's only going to get less effective at his age with some of his injuries he's dealt with going
His
forward.
legs.
So why would you pay him more? You don't or shouldn't.
I think David. I think Everton is a very difficult scenario to be in. We haven't got anyone doing transfers. It's only David Moyes. We're getting Angus Kinnear in from Leeds. He's a CEO. I think Everton need to have had, and I hope they have had internal meetings and sat down and gone, right. I think this is a reasonable request. Where are we going this summer? Are we going to start having? Because Chris, we can still play attacking football and possession football if we have two wingers with pace who can beat a man and get a good ball in and score. That's not mutually exclusive to either style. They can either run up the other end on transition because they're quick, they can take players on, they can score and they can assist. But then they can break teams down because they can beat players 1v1 and score.
Right.
So they're not mutually exclusive, but they need to have some sort of discussion. Where are we going this summer? Have we got players lined up? We talked about Richarlison, Liam Delap. We'll do that on the next stream. But if they have got players lined up and they have got a budget and they are confident, then the likes of Doucoure, the likes of some of these players, they can go because we know we're replacing them. But I think if there's smaller budget or we're not quite sure we can replace all 13 players and actually improve, we need 6 first-team players, both full-back positions, central midfield, centre forward, and right wing. We need 5 or 6, not world-class. Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself there. But we'd love world-class players. But you know what I'm trying to say? We need quality, real quality players in those positions to improve. The rest of them are okay for another year. But they have to have a meeting. If they're not getting them, then I can understand, they need to be careful with what they're doing with these contracts but is there anyone really there apart from Garner and Doucoure that you'd be tempted? I mean, I'm not a big fan of Lindstrom. I just don't think it's too lightweight for me.
He hasn't proven himself, unfortunately. We were saying let's wait and see. Yeah, the hernia, I think it was, has not helped him for the end of the season. But no, I don't want to see him back.
A whole year without scoring.
No, I'm fine with, but I'm not gonna put crazy money on him either.
He went a whole year without scoring, Lindstrom. Just like I predicted he would do when he was at Napoli and didn't get a goal or an assist. What do you expect? You buy a spade.
What you want to do, Ryan, is look back and say how many. You remember when we did the preseason predictions of goals scored? Do we want to go back to that horrible prediction where we said everyone was in the 0 to 5 category and we thought Ndiaye would be well, Ndiaye was basically one of our top scorers, as was.
He's got 3 penalties though. He's only
our top contributor and McNeil. I think that's it. And I guess Beto is snuck in.
I think Ndiaye's got another level to go, and I hope and I think he can get better with real quality fullbacks behind him and players to interchange with. I've got no doubt about it. In terms of those out of contract, just because this stream is about Doucoure and out of contract players and on that lines, Keno, no. Young, no. Coleman, no. I'm also selling Nathan Patterson. I'm also relegating Mikalenko to backup left back or sign another contract and sell him, whatever you're planning on doing. But long term, he's the most limited fullback I've seen since Tony Hibbert.
We need he's the lowest of the priorities, but yes, you can improve him.
Yes, he's the lowest of the main priorities, but he's pretty turgid in terms of fullbacks in the Premier League. He's very one-dimensional. And then in midfield, I would be looking to say, look, is Idrissa Gana Gueye the mainstay player? But can we get an Amadou Onana in there again, or with a bit more ability to dictate the game and consistency? Or is Moyes going to go to what he did at Everton the first time around, which was had more of a creative player alongside an out-and-out defensive midfielder? And I'm not sure either Garner or Gana Gueye are out-and-out defensive midfielders. They like to roam and press. How does this work? It's up for David Moyes to work out with his team, but I'd say right wing is such a weak area. I don't want to see Jack Harrison or Lindstrom. McNeil, I'm happy to keep him because I think he's got a use, although I'm very confused on what type of player he is. He's not natural.
And how Moyes will utilise him as well, because he had a resurgence, honestly, under Sean Dyche. We haven't got really to see how he's going to fit in the Moyes system yet, have we?
No, and I don't think he's a right winger. he's just far too limited on the right. He's always turning back or going on his left foot. And on the left, I think it's very much a crossing style, but you probably need your fullback to do a Leighton Baines and make underlapping runs, which Mykolenko is not capable of doing. He shits his kecks the minute he goes within 50 yards of the opposition goal. Go on, I can see you're itching to say something.
It's like he's a magnet. He just runs into his own teammate, and they need a little bit of separation. So basically, whoever plays on the left has to tuck central, and then gives him the entire touchline. If that's an effective tactic, it sometimes has worked, but they cannot underlap and overlap consistently the old way that Baines and Pienaar did. I haven't seen that combination work.
Just too predictable, though, Mykolenko in the final third. As much as his heart is in the right place and his attitude is absolutely immaculate, and he's a solid defender on his day, I just think we need more from that. Someone who can control that left side. I don't know whether a left-footed left winger who's a touchline hugger in terms of no pace, can't beat a man, he just wants to whip balls and is gonna. We'll see, but you know. The players who are out of contract, you know, just moving on there. Charlie Alcaraz, for me, if he was a reasonable fee and it was incentivized, I'd have him, because I think you need a squad of young players. He's going to improve. He's going to get better as a main first choice attacking midfielder or central midfielder. I'm not sure. And then the front three, you know, I think he wants Calvert-Lewin to stay, because I think his profile is different to other strikers, you know, with his leaping and his jumping, and maybe with more supply, more confidence and the right coaching, he can come good again. I think, but I can also, I don't think Brozier's the start is going to come back, and I think Beto will be sold this summer to the right bidder. And God love him, because I think his goals to minutes ratio is pretty strong, and I think
was
he's
there
a handful.
Going around for him? Was that what I was reading?
No. I think that is just rumors, but you know, if Leeds turned around with 15 million, I think he'd bag 10. I think he'd get 10 goals. He'll hit double figures over 38 games, no problem. But you know, I want one really outstanding striker, and then I want a couple of strikers who can rotate and offer different options and give you that threat. I think Beto gives a threat and behind and in the air. I think Calvert-Lewin offers the hold-up play. But okay, we're going off topic a little bit. I've enjoyed speaking to you, Chris. I've got another stream that I want to do about Richarlison. Shall I have a look at some of these comments quickly?
Yeah, and I think I saw Hawkins' message about the Richarlison rumors and everything Richarlison. For those that are wanting to talk about that, feel free to do it in the comments. But I think I might be able to join Ryan, but I've got a noise restriction about to kick in here, so I may just be in the comments. But anything to do with the Richarlison piece, we'll hold off for the following stream for those who can tag along to that.
Yeah, Jan
we have Yandel replacing.
Jan, come on the next stream. There's another stream scheduled for 5 minutes time. Jan,
he's got his hair done. Leave him alone.
Jan, we've got another stream coming on in 2 minutes. I'm talking about Richarlison.
Hello.
Do you want to, Jan, just give us your thoughts quickly on Doucoure, on his comments? I don't know if you heard all the stuff we were talking about before.
Is he worth 140 grand? And is it unreasonable that we talk about his salary?
Hello. Sorry, my Bluetooth wasn't on. I literally just caught the word salary. Hello.
Jan, go on.
Oh, go ahead. Do you think he's worth 140k?
What you mean, a transfer value or 140k a week?
And weekly salary.
I'm gonna let you two speak for 1 minute while I deal with Pops. Okay.
I'm probably.
You've got a bouncing baby at the back.
I just got the notification that you guys were live, so I hopped on, and I don't know how much you've been talking about, and I had to make a quick phone call, which I would like to very much get on a soapbox about after. So what? I don't know if I'm going to be repeating myself here, but 104, or repeating anything you've said, or making myself sound stupid, but 140,000. Can I just, for my own sake and my my not making myself sound stupid, right? What's the salary range at the moment at Everton, like Pickford and DCL?
I think 120 is about the highest. I have to go back and look at the numbers. I know I did a video on this before.
I wouldn't think
Adoulaye Doucoure and and Pickford are at about 120 right now. So he's asking for an increase of about
No.
15 to 20 grand.
No,
on
no
what
increase, no increase, no increase. It's look, I understand that if you don't give them the same, then they're going to, then there's the potential they could go away. But look, the issue is, are you really, do you have that much confidence in being a saleable commodity? Because, I mean, I'm alarmed with all the rumours of us scraping the barrel of yet again looking around for relegation teams. Now, the teams that have come up are not going to want to poach players from that seem to be at the position in their career that he's at and be wanting to throw those wages at. So it seems as if it is, what are you trying to bend us over a barrel? 140,000 a week. Look, unless there's some madness here that I'm missing, that football players are facing some sort of inflationary cost of living crisis, you know, do one, because it's the ordinary people like, you know, you, me, and Adam, bloody anyone, you know, that have to pay. Suddenly there's a 50% increase in the fucking season tickets. I'm sorry, what's he looked at that and gone, well, I'm not asking for a 50%.
Corey, let's be honest, he's a cheeky bastard. He wants he scored 3 goals this year. He wants another 20 grand. He wants £20,000 out of our pockets.
This is a fantastic point. This is a fantastic point, because squad players that would potentially, you know, people like the cynical, don't put the comments up because I'm going to point this out, but the cynical people who'd say, oh, James Garner isn't good enough. Well, okay, if you're calling him a squad player, there are squad players that we could get that would be on 2 players for 70 grand a week. Great point, James, right? And that would offer more, because let's face it, if we're going to go out and buy a player, you know, are they not going to be in the mix for the kind of position and role that Doucoure would do? Because, you know, we've got McNeil. Oh, is Harrison good? Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Well, we're also the keyboard warriors in the world of hate against players that have the right to ask for what they want, and that's what Emma's kind of toying on. Is that was part of this whole conversation, was we're not allowed to talk about salaries. It's their right to ask what they want. It is their right for them to talk what they want, but they're a public figure at this point. They've made it financially.
But their finances directly impact
with your finances. You're gonna have your career is set, hopefully, on how you manage. And most people were like, you get way more. Think about how much the annual salary is of a person in a year, and that's what, half of that in a week. That's 3 days of work. Is more than most people get in a year. So
footballers get paid more in a year. More in a year than, like, top footballers get paid more in a year than most people earn in a lifetime. It's appalling. And for me, you've elucidated it there, because while it's private, oh, you know, my salary, what do I get, and what poached me, and I came at them saying I've got a job offer with a competitor. It's not personal. This isn't about paying your daily bills and how do you stack up and compared to the neighbors and what you know, and you're comparing, well, I put in 8.5 hours a day and then they quibble at me over this, but John over there in a different department. It's not about that, because players, footballers, especially at the level that we are at, and the weird intermediary stage that Everton are, where we're not getting the huge European TV money constantly and all the sponsorship deals and documentaries and everything, but we're also playing footballers that are internationals, right? So their wages are a huge percentage of our revenue, of our turnover, and our costings. And to say that we don't have a say in it, I'm sorry if don't mean to insult anyone here directly, but if you're saying Emma's quoting that argument, you know, how arrogant it is to say that we can't even comment on it when it affects our day-to-day enjoyment of the football and how it operates, and, you know, budget, David Moyes' bogey word.
Do you think he's seen an element of, oh, we're going a new stadium, there's going to be massive sponsorship, there's going to be massive revenue increases, I'm going to tell my agent that, no, I know they're going to undercut me, so I'm going to go the other way, 140, and we're going to end up with the same contract in the middle, somewhere in the middle, 100K.
Look, sorry, this is the thing, though, that why not? Like, I was talking to a guy the other day on about selling a book, and he said, I could offer you this, and I said, well, look, let's just cut the bullshit. I could meet you here and then we'll say, so why not just meet in the middle and say this? And you went, interesting. And I was like, look, why can't people be honest? Because if you're honest about what you're actually saying, when you say 140 because you think the club's going to undercut you, you're both operating with a sense of unspoken understanding that we understand each other's dishonesty. So why not just be fucking honest? I don't understand it. What's the point?
Apologies for the language. It's a lack of integrity, isn't it, really, would you say, then, if they're
It's a
both
lack of
doing
intelligence to think you're being smarter and that by playing some sort of cognitive game is going to be better than just being transparent. I don't understand. Sorry.
There's a couple thoughts here. One, it's starting to sound a whole lot like the Crystal Palace partial owner John Textor trying to buy Everton by going public. And part two is following on what Ryan was saying on like, well, who are the legends of recent football? We living in the 80s and we're appreciative of staying up, and they're local heroes for us. Anthony Gordon left and felt he was bigger than the club, and we should be grateful for him leaving. It has a similar
He
feeling
had to
that
leave, to be fair.
so poorly that he should be great. We should be grateful for his service. We can appreciate and be grateful of his contribution and not have him as a charity case for the next 3 years. He's done an excellent job at keeping us up and scoring goals at critical times without performing consistently. We can thank him.
If you put a body in a place enough times, it's not like he's scored 12 and is chasing our top scorer who's got 20.
In bowling he gets strikes and gutter balls, nothing else.
But I don't even see us particularly winning a lot of the second balls and just suffocating teams, winning second balls. And I've not seen it with him this season. I haven't seen him rob the ball back and lead transition.
Here's a point. If we're quibbling over £20,000 for Doucoure and you've got players on these wages, if they're accurate, 35,000 for Branthwaite, any team out there would look at him and go, screw it, double his wage, give him an offer, give him a 4-year contract or a 3-year contract with a rider that if we don't offer him an increased wage, he gets to walk at this, or something like that. Like, someone's going to do that. Sorry, yes, I am swearing loads. Can I just go wildly off topic? And you brought me in. Most people idle, when they're worked up at 20 or 30. I'm already doing 90 because I came into this chat off the back of a phone call with Amazon. I've been subject to a GDPR breach and they are just fobbing me off and sending me blank, vague emails. And I've already contacted the ICO and it's been over a month and I am peed off.
So it's easy to target Doucoure and have a rant about him because he's wound you up even more.
No, it's you look, you know how to push my buttons. You know exactly what to say. But how do you justify it, Chris? How do you justify 20 grand more? Have you seen a market improvement? It's not like we've signed him as a 21-year-old and he's suddenly improved. Another team at clubs are sniffing round.
There's no politics involved in this. There's no political ideology from us because we all have different views as well. But what I would say is, on footballing terms, any rational person would say, yes, there's inflation in the world. I mean, is he using that as an argument that everything's costing more? Surely not. Surely not. Because you've got and look at the chat.
Hired players before doesn't mean we should continue that trend, and therefore he should be paid more.
No, well, you just told me not to get political because constant growth and constant inflation on a finite earth with finite resources is wildly disconnect. Like, I'm not going to go there.
Jan, you've got someone like James Garner who's on 30 grand a week and plays week in, week out and actually puts in relatively decent performances, although he doesn't pull up many trees for a lot of fans anymore. But, I just think there's so many areas for us to improve this summer. And for me, I would be replacing the likes of James Garner, bringing in an absolutely fantastic central midfielder who can pass, who can dictate, who can score, who can an all-round player, and stop going for players. Oh, because you don't score and assist, you're a defensive midfielder. Let's try and go to that other level. But what I would say is, as Chris mentioned before, it's about priorities. Would we all like to replace Mikalenko and bring in an Anthony Robinson style player at left back who can run up and down the wing?
At what point do we start playing fantasy football and Football Manager? Do you know what I'm saying? Of course, there's always going to be better players out there, but I'm talking about the real weaknesses.
But the standards are in the real mud. No, but
Manager, expand the stadium. We did that. Sorry.
I'm talking about prioritizing. So yes, we would like to replace X and Y, but we have a list to go through. It might not be that we can replace Patterson and Mikalenko in one season. Both I would be, but what I'm saying, we might have to start with what's the main priority. Okay, well, we've got 13 out of contract. Who's indispensable in that? Hi, Dave. Who's indispensable in that moment? You know, who of those 13 players, guys, who is leaving? Who do we replace? Who is the essential players that we must replace? They're the priorities.
Yeah. So I did bring up, and we don't have to go into the charts and everything, but these were some of the ones I made a few weeks back. If we wanted to look at the midfield and forwards and bring those up, if that's of interest, because it's got the approximate salaries, who's out of contract as well. But some of the key midfielders that we do need to replace, I think we've got a gaping hole in central midfield for those that can carry. Eric Burnham looked excellent at the start of the season, but he hasn't proven it in the second half ever since that injury. So if he can get back to it, great. We can't rely on Idrissa Gana Gay in the future, and he can be a stopgap. He's already done it, and it's only going to get equal or slowly go off the rails, right? So
that
we need
statistic about over 100 tackles. That statistic of over 100 tackles, to me, I don't know if you guys have talked about that. That shows his importance. You know, it's his third season in a row or whatever it is.
But we can't have him for 7 years and hope he's the future at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. But my point being, then you need to think who's the replacement. Is James Garner the replacement there? But he doesn't have the sort of wild elasticity and the quick responses, you know, and the ability to somehow recover when you think he's falling and turning and lost the ball. Like Idrissa Gana Gay has something magical about his play, but unfortunately he's getting old. But the issue for me then is if we're reliant on that, that says something about our style of football. Now, I'm sorry to jump in there, but what, you know, you're saying we could replace. I just want to ask you guys, when you watch any other pre-match stuff on any other fan channel, not follow Everton, but I mean non-Everton, I just have to say that I'm really noticing that we have developed a culture where all of us, myself included, where we just constantly slag off the players and every single element of what's not good enough. Now, I don't know what the reason is, but certainly 30, 37. No, Christ, how many years is it now?
We're talking 80s, aren't we?
No, wait, sorry. Okay, 90, you know, 95 with the silverware. The longest, most unsuccessful, you know, or celebrated club we've had. Our fans have had no reason to celebrate for the longest period of any other English club, because
every single team in the football pyramid has won at least a promotion,
or one promotion, and had a reason to celebrate. Has gone to Wembley, won silverware, and I don't want to lament, and I don't want to tear the players down, right? Because they're the ones who are on the pitch, and you know, I can understand the argument of if you don't have very much else, if you don't have the holistic support and the well-being and the feel-good factor and the optimism of coming to work and the camaraderie of a good working, well-oiled machine, you might ask for 20 grand more to put up with the misery and the fans being on your back and doing this kind of thing week in and week out, right? And it might be an intangible and not been able to put into a monetary value. But for me, it's so frustrating, because then where do you point the blame? Do you point the manager and the rotating door that we've had for the last God knows how many years, and what that's done for the you know, contract day, and the backroom staff and everyone that's gone? And you just go, well, what's happened to the culture? And Dan Friedkin comes in, and we've had nobody on the board for so long. There's been no transitionary team. We've lost Bill Kenwright, and the beating heart, whether you like him or you didn't. And we've had what are you doing?
I'm about to bring something up. Sorry.
Yeah, but the point being for me is we've had this for 30 years. We've had that, but for so long we've had this decline. And to me, I don't know whether it's a rot or a culture, and I feel like I'm repeating myself, but we've just accepted mediocrity, and the fans are fatigued. We're fed up, and we don't know what to turn to, because we don't have youth recruitment. We don't have young starlets retained. We don't have you know, it's taken 20 years for us to get a new stadium, when there were literal plans being done of, oh, we're looking at this land, we've got this sponsorship.
I agree. Yeah, and I think that standards are in the mud. When you talk about fullbacks, the likes of Crystal Palace's Munoz, Aina at Forest, these are smaller clubs than Everton. Anthony Robertson at Fulham, the top player, we're playing them this weekend. People laugh at you and go, why would they go to Everton? And this is because we as fans have degraded everything and lowered our standards. We're still the 5th most successful team in England. We act like the 50th most successful team in England, and it's frustrating. Anyway, I do want to move on. I just want to touch briefly because it was meant to be a 10-minute stream on my own. It's become a lovely.
Yeah, I know, but the point being is, when you talk about Doucoure doing that, I have to ask the question that they're human beings. If it's torturous sometimes for us to go to the match, for us to do this analysis, for us to say that we piss away leads, or we give away players like Anthony Robinson and Iwobi, and why didn't we sign him? And then we're scraping the barrel of relegation teams, and it begs the question: what's it like for players then? I feel so sorry for them. Like,
Ozzy, go on.
I really do. I don't think you can just brush on for this, because you're talking about Doucoure wanting 20 grand or more, or putting this argument. But then there's the very real question of what players want to come to Everton anymore. There's not that sort of feeling of you're joining the Toffees, like having a lovely day out in the sunshine and playing a bit of School of Science football. Yes, I want the revivalism. It's not pessimism, because I think it's going to get better. But you need to see a whole change with Dan Freakin and the move. And it's just, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you need a rebirth, but you can't necessarily force that. It's an organic process. And how do you kickstart such a huge monumental change with a new ground?
Thank you so much, Jan, and the wonderful comments. But just in the interest of time, Jan, I can sense the frustration, the anger, and it's fully justified. In 12 months' time, if there hasn't been any improvement, I think that is when we can seriously ask questions. But all we can say now, the new stadium and everything that comes with it is a step in the right direction. Let's give them some trust. Let's back them for the summer and hope we can bring in some better players. Chris, you've got this list of players you wanted to touch upon, and then I'll bring you the reaction to David Moyes' press conference.
Sure. And I'm going to get going here based on noise restrictions out on site for me. But what I wanted to bring these up, just looking at some of the players that, and this was made about maybe 3 months ago. So some of these rankings on the right may be out of date now, but we looked at players that we had that were expiring on contract on Yango, Doucoure, Gana Gay, and then Butterfield and some others. But you look at who the highest salary earners are in our midfield, Doucoure and Gana Gay were at the top. This was basically me saying what's the weekly wage and trying to put that into how much they make a season. So about 7 mil, which I think was like 125-ish. So Doucoure was comfortably up there, and the Gana Gay was the only one remotely close in our midfield when it came to wages. But I think Gana Gay has arguably earned his, or I think he's earned his comfortably. Doucoure has not. But outside of that, you look at the likes of James value, 1/4 the value. Alcaraz
is market value to do with book value?
Sorry, I'm losing internet here.
Market value and book value are different.
Well, I know that, but ordinarily it's strange that Doucoure's market value is the same as his annual wage, and considering it's his last year,
it's similar. There's a couple numbers.
Well, we said he's worth about. We said he's worth about 5 million, didn't we? But I don't think James Garner's worth anywhere near 16 million, and I don't think Orel Mangala is either. Or Tim Rabunin.
I was trying to come up with something, and I went to transfer market per player to get what they generated as a value, and then I went to a website, a group called Capology, to get the estimates for annual wages. So it's not perfect, but it was what I could put together.
Oh, it wasn't a criticism.
Not exactly the same, but I had to multiply some of these out, and they coincidentally, if the market value is equal to the annual wage, that's a sign that they're at the peak and on their way down. That's another way of thinking about it. And if their market value is less than their annual wage, they're definitely on that part of their value spectrum, that they're on the way out, and they can hold on by doing well for a couple more years.
Yes, polite way of putting it. Yes.
I don't have the potty mouth that some claim others do.
Just from Wes, and if you want to see some of Wes, he's back on Tuesday for a very special show with his companion, Robbie. So the two of them are Tuesday, 7 o'clock live, and Follow Everton. Make sure you tune in for that incredible show. I think we're all really looking forward to hearing about Everton and Goodison's favorite memories, their favorite memories, and they've got a lot of them. And he says Doucoure clearly has another offer from someone else to come out and say he won't take a pay cut. Mr. Handyman, Jan, what do you think?
It's a very interesting point. I would just like to point out, Ryan, that to clear up that you made it seem as if Wes and Robbie were companions. That's not the case.
They're bracketed companions.
Yeah.
No,
it's a very good point.
It together. No one said, I don't want you perverted thinking I meant that.
I'm not being perverted. I'm just laughing at the linguistic use of a very euphemistic phrase. It was just, that's a passing comment. No, Wes has just said
sorry,
there,
Wes, for Jan's behaviour. I apologise to everyone.
What are you on about?
The companions. Since when is companion being meant boyfriend?
Dude, I was just laughing at your use of a
word
word there.
Let them be.
Right. It's fine. It's fine. No, Wes made a very good point there, and yes. I miss you, Wes. I miss you, mate. So yeah, it's quite an astute point. Or sometimes we live in the era of, I don't want to say, okay, we live in the era of BS, like I said earlier, though, that it could even be one of those that an agent or somebody in the thing has put out, or it's orchestrating a fake scenario to make it seem like he's got an offer when he doesn't even have that. So you never know what's true in this AI era.
Yeah.
Of
how much did he pay Romano to break a leak that was fake?
He will have offers, but there'll be no one really offering that kind of salary because clubs don't offer
it's Saudi
salaries.
Arabia for him, honestly.
Who offers 100 grand plus a week for crap players? Will Tottenham Hotspur? Would they take him? Man United?
I mean, what did Damari Gray get for leaving?
What's Richarlison on?
We're going to come to that now. Just very quickly, Chris, you've got some of these other players up here. Market value for Calvert-Lewin, 18 million. I find that hard to believe. He's only scored, I think it's less than 20 goals across.
Again, it's what Transfer Market says. We don't know unless people are actually having the phone calls. And again, this was what, 3 months ago, and anyway, the market values are unreliable. Annual wages, a lot of this is hard to get a hold of. What really was looking at here was the annual wage for Calvert-Lewin is the only thing. Him and Jack Harrison, Garner Gay, Pickford, Tarkovsky, and we missed one. And Doucoure, that's the key earners for us.
Yeah. Can I just touch on DCL, please, very quickly?
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about David Moyes' press conference. I have got a 6-month-old baby crawling around behind me. I'm quite conscious of that because it's been a little while. So I'm kind of multitasking as much as I can. But Calvert-Lewin, across the last 9 years of Everton career, he only has scored more than 10 goals in the league, well, in all competitions, twice in 9 years. He scored 13 goals in 1920 and 16 in 2021. All the other seasons, he scored less than 7 or less goals. He needs to realize his position. He is a squad player forward with a specific skill set, and he cannot ask for stupid salary. If he wants to stay, he needs to be on a reduced wages. Of all the others you mentioned there, Ndiaye is fully worth his wage. He's excited us this season. He's got still more to come. Jack Harrison, please don't come back. Thanks for your good attitude, but we don't need you. Leeds have got better wingers. Manor Solomon, their left winger, scoring their winning goal. They've got better players at Leeds than they're offering us their casts off. I don't think Chimiti. I think Chimiti will go on loan. Brozier won't come back. Lindstrom won't come back. The 3 kids we'll probably never ever see. And Better will probably get sold back to Italy. So your whole front line needs shredding, doesn't it, really? And
yeah. I mean, you'll get Ndiaye and Chimiti probably stay and everyone else is gone.
Everton's turned into a meat grinder, hasn't it?
Yeah. So I probably need to disappear off here solely from a noise restriction. I can be on the chat and join you guys, and maybe that helps for a segue. But
was it my shouting?
Really good talking, guys, and I'll join on the chat when the next stream comes out here in a minute.
Apologies. Was it my shouting and swearing there, Chris?
No, I've got people that are on night shift next to me, so I gotta.
Oh, and we've been left on our own. Well, okay. Ryan told me that we were about to discuss. Chris is gone. It was always lovely, but you, like I said,
Thanks,
you
Chris.
got me going at 90 there. Now, what you said we were going to talk about Richarlison? I mean,
yeah, I mean, I did have
people in the.
Sorry, mate. Go on.
No, I was just going to say we've had people in the chat talk about their opinions on Richarlison before,
Yeah.
whether they take him back or not, and I don't know whether there's been any news or developments rather than in recently, and you know what wage is on, and whether you think it'd be worth.
Yeah. I think just to give you the heads up, Jan, just because Poppy's behind me and I've been on here 45 minutes, I do have to go and
Okay.
probably no more than 5 minutes.
No, we can. Yeah, we'll wrap this up. I suppose it's Doucoure related then.
I did have a stream lined up for Richarlison. I am going to cancel that. The reason I'm cancelling that stream is because David Moyes has said today categorically on Richarlison, there is no truth in it from his side. I wonder whether his agent is angling for a move. He's probably saying, can you get me back to Everton? I think that Moyes is probably playing it down because it's an expensive deal to do, both in terms of wages and with Daniel Levy, who is a notorious... Chris is saying start the next show, but I just don't see that much point. It's kind of start the next show. What, you want us to talk about Richarlison for 5 minutes on the other stream? And David Moyes' press conference. Okay, Jan, can you jump on the other stream? We'll just do that for 5 minutes. It's a separate video.
Yes, sir.
See you in a minute.